All right. So good evening, and let's begin with our chanting. At first we shall chant the 6th verse of Durga Suktam that we learned to chant. Then we shall do the 7th one, which will be the last one. Okay, so this is the 6th one, which we already learned to chant. We shall chant it again today together. Okay, slowly. Let's start. Pratnosi kamidyo adhvareshu sanacha hota nabhyascha satsi sancha agne tanuvam priprayas basmabhyam cha saubhaga maya jasva. Before going to the 7th one, we shall read out the English translation of 7th one. Let's read it together. Okay. We offer our oblations to the fire of Durga to cross over this very difficult ocean of worldly existence. With senses, mind and heart pleased by your blissful presence and becoming unattached to the external world, we are infused with your devotion. O the highest one, may we follow, immerse ourselves in your all-pervading blissful consciousness within the spiritual sky, Chid Akasha, and dwell here in this Vaishnavi Loka, world of your all-pervading consciousness, being intoxicated by your blissful nature. So this one first, call and response. Govir Justa, Govir Justa, Mayujo, Mayujo, Nishiktan, Nishiktan, Taveendra, Taveendra, Bishnor, Bishnor, Anusamcharema, Anusamcharema, Nakasva, Nakasva, Prishtam Avi, Prishtam Avi, Sambasano, Sambasano, Vaishnavim, Vaishnavim, Loka Iha, Loka Iha, Madayantam, Madayantam. Let's try to now chant together. Govir Justa, Mayujo, Nishiktan, Taveendra, Bishnor, anusamcharema nakasva prishtam abhi sambasano vaishnavim loka iha madayantam. Once more, little faster. Govir justa mayujo nishiktan tavendra vishnor anusamcharema nakasva prishtamabhi sambasano vaishnavim loka iha madayantam. After Durga Suktam is chanted, there is one Durga Gayatri. Okay, a short one. We shall read the translation first, then chant. Om, let our mind contemplate on Devi Katyayani to know her conscious form, and then meditate on that Kanya Kumari deeply, who is the universal mother. May that fire of Durga awaken our consciousness. So Katyayani, Kanyakumari, these are different forms of same Durga, different manifestations of same Durga. So this is, let me first chant the whole thing, then we shall do the call and response. This is chanted like this. Om Katyayanaya Vidmahe Kanya Kumari Dhimahi Tanno Durgi Prachodayat. Now let's try this call and response. Om Katyayanaya Vidmahe. Om Katyayanaya Vidmahe Kanya Kumari Dhimahi Kanya Kumari Dhimahi Tanno Durgi Prachodayat. Tanno Durgi Prachodayat. Let's try to chant together. Om Katyayanaya Vidmahe Kanya Kumari Dhimahi Tanno Durgi Prachodayat. With this ends Durga Suktam, which was a difficult one. So next day we shall chant all the verses together. Okay, this is how we can learn it, chanting it again and again. All right. So now Narada Bhakti Sutras, we are into that section of Narada Bhakti Sutra where Narada is discussing how to cultivate divine love. And we saw that quite a few aphorisms were dedicated to the subject of need of holy company. So according to Narada, the chief means of cultivating bhakti is company of right type of people. Right type of people, which is most important in cultivation of bhakti. And that topic finished. Now he speaks about, kind of warns us about the other company. One was holy company, its effect. Now he wants to warn us against unholy company. A few verses or a few aphorisms about unholy company. Okay. All right. So aphorism 43. Aphorism 43 is Duh Sangaha Sarvatha Eva Tyajyaha. Let's chant it together. Duh Sangaha Sarvatha Eva Tyajyaha. Duh means unholy. Sangaha means company. Eva means must. Tyajyaha, be avoided. Sarvatha, by all means. Unholy company must be avoided by all means. This is the aphorism. All right. Okay. So, as we discussed earlier, that we cannot escape the power of influence. Good company have good influence on us. Unholy company has bad influence on us. Everywhere, kind of people we hang out with, they will have an influence on us. So Narada wants to warn us that at the early stages of devotion, an aspirant should be careful about what company one keeps. Sri Ramakrishna said in his famous example that a sapling should be protected with fences. A sapling, otherwise it may be eaten up by animals. But when the same sapling matures into a tree, even an elephant can be tied to it. That is, he gave this example to illustrate this point that at the beginning, an aspirant should be careful about what kind of company one is keeping. So what is unholy company? We may ask, what is dussangha, unholy company? So company of people chiefly who are pursuing only worldly goals, and they have no value for spiritual growth. No value for spirituality or spiritual growth. It is not that these people are not good people. They are good people, but as far as spiritual life is concerned, too much company with them may be detrimental for our spiritual growth. In spirituality, holy means anything that takes us nearer to God or nearer to our spiritual goal. And unholy means anything that takes us away from the goal. So if with these parameters in our mind, we can decide which is a holy company and which is unholy company. Now the question will come that don't we say that God is everywhere and try to see God everywhere? What about that? God is everywhere in every being. Then why one should avoid it? So thing is, it's a great truth that God is everywhere. It's a great teaching, but it requires some spiritual maturity. And unless we are advanced enough, we cannot really realize this teaching. We should keep this teaching in mind that God is in everybody, but differences are in manifestation. Sri Ramakrishna says, God dwells in all beings, but you may be intimate only with good people. You must keep away from the evil-minded. Then God is even in the tiger, but you cannot embrace the tiger on that account. You may say, why run away from a tiger, which is also a manifestation of God? The answer to that is, those who tell you to run away are also manifestations of God. And why should not you listen to them? So this tells us why we should keep away from unholy company. And unholy company, not only people, the broader meaning is anything that we gather through our senses, any sensory input. Maybe it is through the news, the books, movies, social media, whatever. So everything that we are taking in, that also we have to think whether this is taking us to our spiritual goal or not, if we want to cultivate bhakti. Unholy company drags us down. How? That will be told in the next aphorism. Before that, a question may come to our mind. Is it possible to avoid unholy company at all? So this aphorism says, sarvatha, by all means, that is, as much as possible. As much as possible. There are some instances when we cannot avoid such company. And on those moments, we have to know that we really have no choice but to be in that company, but we shall be careful enough not to be influenced by such company. And we should salute the indwelling God in all persons, even so-called unholy persons, from a distance. Why? For our own safety. In the beginning, we need our safety. We need our sapling of bhakti, devotion to grow. So that's why, even though the company of such, those people we need to avoid, even though God dwells in them, we need to salute the indwelling God from a distance. Sri Ramakrishna again says that God undoubtedly dwells in the hearts of all, holy, unholy, righteous, unrighteous, but a person should not have dealings with the unholy, the wicked, the impure. They must not be intimate with them. With some of them, one may exchange words, but with others, one should not go even that far. one should keep aloof from such people. So this is for, again, we have to remember, for a devotee whose concern is to how to cultivate bhakti. Okay, from that perspective, we have to think whether company of certain people are helping me in my spiritual pursuit or just taking me away. That was aphorism 43, that try to avoid the company of unholy people by all means. Next aphorism will speak why it is so, why we should avoid the company of unholy people. Aphorism 44, and that is very wonderful aphorism, a lengthy one, but so much to learn from the aphorism. The aphorism is kama, krodha, moha, smriti bhramsha, buddhinasha, sarvanasha, karanatvat. Let's chant it together. Kama, krodha, moha, smriti bhramsha, buddhinasha, sarvanasha, karanatvat. Karanatvat means because. Why one should keep away from unholy company? Karanatvat, because it is the cause of. It is means the company of unholy people, unholy thought, unholy news, unholy media. Because of it, because it is the cause of kama. Kama means desire. Krodha, anger. Moha, delusion. Smriti, bhramsha. Smriti means memory. Bhramsha means confusion of memory or loss of memory. Buddhi nasha. Buddhi means intelligence or understanding. Nasha means loss. Loss of intelligence, loss of understanding. And sarvanasha, and utter ruin. So unholy company will result in all these things, and these come in sequence. They are sequential. So let's have a look at it. Very wonderful aphorism. In fact, it is paraphrases of this aphorism paraphrases two very well-known verses from the Bhagavad Gita. Second chapter, verse number 62 and 63. So this aphorism explains why unholy company should be avoided, how unholy company drags us down. The two verses of the Bhagavad Gita, it is called 8-step ladder of fall. 8-step ladder of fall. There is a ladder of fall which we take, we shall go down, which has got 8 steps, one by one. But this aphorism omits the first 2 steps, which is presented in the Bhagavad Gita. So this aphorism can better be understood in the light of these 2 aphorisms of the Bhagavad Gita. So we'll try to have a brief look on that. The aphorisms are 62, the verses are 62 and 63 of second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, and it is Dhyayoto Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat krodho vijayate. Krodhat bhavati sanmohaha. Sanmohat smiti vibhramaha. Smiti vramshad buddhinasha. Buddhinashat pranashvati. So, in the case of a person who dwells on objects, there arises attachment for them. From attachment grows hankering. From hankering springs anger. From anger follows delusion. From delusion, failure of memory. From failure of memory, loss of intelligence. And from that, a person perishes. Okay, so let us see these 8 steps one by one. First is dwelling on object. Dhyayate. So mind can dwell upon object, any object. It is called Vishaya Dhyana. In this case, unholy company encourages us to dwell on worldly objects. That is why the Narada is warning us. For example, if we have the company of people who are only interested or strongly interested in money, and the discussion will also be all about money making. What will happen slowly without our knowledge, we shall be thinking about money. And Vedanta will say that at this level, the person should use their viveka, the power of discernment. We should ask the question whether it is worthwhile dwelling upon that object, whether it is healthy to think of that object so much that we are now dwelling on. And if we are alert and intelligent enough, at this stage or at this state, we can nip in the bud, because first thought, it is feeble, it is feeble at that time. We are just only dwelling. The entire process has just started. We are only dwelling on the object or dwelling on the thoughts, dwelling on the news or dwelling on the information. And at that moment, we should be careful about that whether it is worthwhile to give so much time in this. Second stage is liking, sangaha. If we dwell on that object, piece of information, we begin to develop a fancy for the object. And if we dwell on that for a length of time, our mind has a tendency to appreciate it. We say it is wonderful, appealing, which is called sangaha, attachment. We are started feeling a liking for that thing. Here also, the problem is not much. We can always appreciate things, saying that it is wonderful. This is also part of God's creation. For example, we are appreciating a flower in the garden. Wonderful, God's creation. Problem starts in the next stage. What is that? Third, desire, kamaha. And this aphorism that we are reading now starts from here, desire. So problem starts at the level of desire. What we are saying, well, it looks nice, then it is worth having. Then mentally we try to say, I want it. I want it. And without it, my life is not complete. That is called kamaha, when the liking is too strong, then we are already trapped by that object. Then what will happen? The fourth stage, krodha, that is anger. But from desire, two routes are possible. From desire, one route is, suppose the desire is fulfilled. We want something, want to possess something, and we get it. What will happen then? We shall see, we shall feel that it is not enough. We want more of that. If I have 100, I would want 1,000. If I have 1,000, I would need 1,000,000. There is no limit. So fulfilled desire leads to greed. And second, if the desire is not fulfilled, if I don't get what I want, it might lead to anger. So obstructed desire, from obstructed desire, anger is born. The stronger the desire, the stronger the anger when we cannot have that. What happens from then? Fifth, delusion, moha. When the mind is in the grip of anger or greed, then our power of judgment is lost. Our sense of decency is lost. I forget who I am. I forget what my goal is. That is delusion. That's why in this country, anger is called madness. Anger is, I became mad. That is, I lost all sense. We have been overpowered by anger or greed. Overpowered by anger or greed. This is the fifth stage. Then sixth stage is smriti bhramsha, loss of memory. That is, whatever we learned, whatever we knew, whatever values we had will not be available for us when we are overpowered by the strong emotions of anger and greed. Means temporarily that entire knowledge is lost, and temporarily I lose all sense of values. Then what happens? Seventh, buddhinasha, loss of understanding or loss of intelligence. When that knowledge is obstructed, when we forget what we knew, then the power of discernment is lost, like what I should really do and what I should not do. This power of discernment is lost. That is, earlier there was a hope. Until I was in moha state, delusion state, there was still a hope of return. But now there is no hope. I totally lose all of my reasoning. So that is buddhinasha. Then from buddhinasha, eighth and the last step is total ruin. That is sarvanasha. If we lose our sense of reasoning, we stop being human being. That is why it is called total ruin. But we should remember that in spiritual path, there is never a total ruin. There is always an opportunity or option to come back to the track. There is never an eternal doom. But the more I have unholy company, unholy thoughts, or the more I dwell on thoughts which keep me away from my spiritual goal, the more difficult it will be for me to come back to the spiritual track. In that sense, it is sarvanasha, that is total ruin. So this is called the ladder of human fall. So what are the stages? 8 stages. Number 1, unholy company or dwelling on worldly objects. That is called dhyana, thinking about or dwelling amongst them. Number 2, that is stage 2, starting to have a liking for them. A liking, that is sangaha. Third one is strong liking and a desire to possess them. That is kama. Number 4, if that desire is fulfilled, we might have greed. If not fulfilled, we might have anger, krodha. And when we are overpowered by greed or anger, the 5th stage is moha, delusion. Delusion. When delusion happens, when we are overpowered, then 6th stage, temporary loss of all knowledge, or all values, smriti vramsha. 7th, loss of power of discernment. The viveka is lost, buddhi nasha. And then total ruin or point of no return, that is sarvanasha. These are the 8 steps. So Narada says that unholy company, be it of people, of news, of movies, or books, or any consumption through our senses, that potentially can lead us to through all these stages, okay, and drag us down. The positive thing, if we want to learn from these 8 steps of human fall, is dwell on holy thoughts. Number 1, dwell on holy thoughts, dhyana. Okay, meditate on holy thoughts, uplifting thoughts, dwell on them, contemplate. From that, what will happen? Second stage, sangha. We shall develop liking for them. Develop a liking for them. And from that, third will arise desire. That is yearning for God. Yearning for God. So dwell on holy thoughts, dwell on thoughts of gods or uplifting thoughts, elevating thoughts. Then we start develop liking for them. From that will come yearning for God, yearning for our spiritual goal. And then the rest of the steps don't apply here. Things get better and better. So we should remember that unholy company does not mean only company of people. Any sensory input in the form of news, books, movies, social media. And Narada says that not only we should, if we want to cultivate our devotion, not only should we seek the company of holy people who inspires devotion in us, but also should avoid company or sensory inputs of these things which keep me away from God. So one may ask, what if I have only a little exposure to the so-called unholy company, a little exposure? Then Narada will say in the next aphorism that even in the beginning, they are like ripple, these effects. These effects are first like a ripple, but slowly they become wave. The strong like wave, and which consumes us. So that we shall see in our next aphorism. Okay. So point is, try to avoid influence of people or thoughts or ideas which are detrimental for our spiritual progress, spiritual growth as much as possible. Any question? I can unmute you. You may ask also questions if you have.
So that has a lot of implications for how we educate our children and what kinds of schools we send them to.
Sure. It has, this process has implication in every sphere of life, and applied to spiritual life, applied to bhakti, it means avoiding company of people who are not in the path of devotion, who are not in the path of spirituality. Sure. And childhood is the most important thing.
Swami?
Yes.
This is Alexandra.
Yeah.
So it sounds like if I see something I like and I want to buy it, I have an impulsive thought. It's impulse. And then you're saying that if I go home on the bus and I keep thinking about it, it becomes a wave.
Yeah.
So if I say, oh, I shouldn't think this, that doesn't make the wave go away. So how do you begin to dismantle that drive towards wanting things or that particular thing?
That's a very good question. So I believe, that if we can develop, although it is not so easy, if we can practice, appreciating things without the desire to possess it.
Right.
Okay. Like, first of all, be very clear about really I like it, need it or not. Really I need this update. Or suppose, to give a example, I have a phone which very clearly serves my purpose. Whatever I want to do serves my purpose. A new phone has come. Next version of the phone, iPhone has come, 13, and it looks very nice. And of course, commercials will be so nice. They will create the need in us. Even if we don't need it, their role is to create an artificial need in us. So in that moment, instead of totally denying, can we practice, or can we have that quality to appreciate, wow, they have come up with a nice model. This looks so beautiful. But at the same moment, not going into the next step of having it in my palm. Okay. I can appreciate, can I appreciate something without the desire to really possess it myself?
Okay.
And I think that has that helps me a lot.
Okay. Thank you, Swami.
Yeah. Do I see any question? So we can be saved still step 3. Yes. Still step 3, when we have dwelt on an object, we have got some kind of liking for it, and when desire has come up, then if we are alert enough, we know that. How we know? We constantly think of that object, and in our present day, what we do, we search more about the object, search more and more, find out more about the object in internet. So that's a sign that desire is building up. Desire is building up. And the thing which we all of us know, nowadays, the consumerism, what they do, they show a thing, a video, a three-dimensional model, see it. Suppose an art thing, there will be an option, see it, how it fits in your room. Okay, see it, how it looks on you, the virtual things, So the more we dwell on these kind of things, the more actually we are encouraging ourselves to possess that object. So that is how we can be smart enough to undo their effect, how to nip the unholy desires in the bud. So being alert that these thoughts are arising in my mind, and instead of trying to get rid of them, try to be witness to them, try to be witness to them. Yes, these thoughts have come to my mind, these desires have come to my mind. So being alert about that these have entered my mind. So that is the beauty of, why meditation is prescribed so much, or contemplation. If we do it daily, then we can understand that these thoughts are playing in my mind. Okay, instead of we being played out by these thoughts, we can have a greater control on them, better handle on them. We know that these thoughts are now going on in my mind. Shankara gives an example of a ball rolling down the steps, no stopping it. Right. Kunda Keno, yeah. Shankara gives the example that slowly it starts, the process starts, and when the ball starts rolling from the steps, slowly it gathers momentum. In the first two steps, we might have a chance to catch hold of the ball, but later on it gets so much of momentum that we cannot get hold of it. Do you think gradual renunciation of things is the first step one should take? Gradual, I don't know what gradual renunciation you mean by that. Okay, what I feel is, that for most of us, what should work is the approach of moderation, and asking the question again and again, as Narada says, whether these thoughts are helping me, or dwelling on these. So for example, we can go on consuming so much of news and information, 24-hour you can, but we can ask, is it really helping me in my spiritual goal, having too much of information? Maybe do we really need so much, or just to have an overall view of what is going on? So the more we dwell on these objects, and mostly these are depressing, because good news are not shown, nobody is interested in good news. So depressing thoughts, the more we dwell on, the more depressive we shall become. Okay, which is not only not good for spiritual life, but as such not healthy in any way.
Swamiji, I had a question. So the reference to verse 62 in the Gita, it seems to build up a sort of a gradation, thinking of worldly objects, that's number one, attachment, number two, longing, number three, anger, number four, and so on. Little surprised to see anger being placed there, because, it's a very, at least personally, we get angry at a driver behind honking or someone blocking you off. When we speak of anger in this verse, are we talking about that kind of, petty anger, shall we say, or some other sort of something deeper that's arising out of not getting the object of desire?
Yes. So here, anger, krodha, the word is krodha, is mostly unobstructed desire, when the desire is obstructed, when I'm not able to get it, the kind of despair I feel at that moment. Despair we feel. The example is, no, if we are addicted to something and we are not getting that thing at this moment, at that moment we can do anything to get that thing. Okay, so that is the state of krodha.
I see.
Okay, so suppose I love a phone, a mobile phone, a model. I have liked it so much, but I don't have the means to get it. Then at that moment, this greed can overpower us. Greed can overpower us, and we might do things. If we look at the stories of all the corruption, how corruption happens, that those who are involved in the corruption, they desire something which is beyond their means. So they are already in a big house, but now they are looking for a bigger house. They don't have the means probably. Okay, and then they lose the sense of right and wrong, and do the corruption. Because at that moment they need that money to purchase a house. Okay, so this is how it is played out. So the krodha or anger need not be, as we understand it, is a tantrum, may not be. And you know what the psychology says, that depression is suppressed anger. Depression is suppressed anger. When I have anger for something, but I am unable to express it, that can lead to depression. Okay, so Bhagavad Gita says krodha, it can very well lead to depression. I mean, even a temporary depression, not a chronic depression or clinical depression. Okay, anger at many things, when suppressed, when we are unable to express to that appropriate authority to which we are angry at, that very often may lead to depression. The sense of helplessness can lead to a suppressed anger, depression. Right. Okay.
So one other point, in Bengali, people often use the word Sarvanash, kind of
yes,
Sarvanash, like my father would say Sarvanash, kind of in a OMG or, kind of a sense.
Yes.
The first time I did not know the connection with the Narada Bhakti Sutra. So the Sarvanash actually literally means
Sarva means all, Nasha means ruin.
It's much stronger than I had imagined to be.
Yes. Sarvanasa means, I mean, everything is gone, no hope. Doom scrolling, krodha. Yeah. All right, very good questions. We'll do the, guided meditation in a minute. Okay, I will take a break, then we shall do the guided meditation.